Hey guys, I'm just finishing importing these two scenes. These are two levels, two large levels of the new castle, modular castle system. And what's happening is you're seeing some stuff going on here, that things are being imported. Well, I'm excited. There's a lot of stuff happening in this new release and will be happening this month around this release, technology stuff and other things. What you're looking at now is Scene Packer unpacking meta information about the scene. And what it's creating is journal entries that work. So that stair entry actually works. It imported a bunch of stairs. Here's some information about this organ that can be slid out of the way of this new room. And here's an icon that if we double click it, will automatically generate an encounter. This is a pre-built encounter. Zephyr created this. Automatically add it to your combat tracker, and you've got an instant encounter. That icon was only visible to the GM, but now you've got spiders crawling around inside of this webbed hallway that you didn't have before, and they're already in position tactically, and there's a ton of these throughout this that you can use or you don't have to use. But we wanted to show you this because we now have the ability to add storytelling layer to our maps. I think that's super exciting. And this whole map was built with pieces. I'm going to show you guys all of the assets that went into building it, what you have access to, what you'll have access to this month, as well as we add more. And I'm going to show you how to build one of these scenes from scratch so that you can go and do this yourself. And you'll notice we also are supporting all the new modern Foundry overhead stuff. Now you're actually looking at the old roofs module. It does the same thing. But you will see this support throughout the rest of the castle series, and we have a whole bunch of other really cool stuff to show you in regards to this. You're looking at overhead tiles, gargoyles that are sitting up above, looming in on your players as they walk through. You've got animated effects from the Gorgon. You've got, and by the way, he's got amazing stuff in terms of flamethrowers and traps, bats that fly through, rats that run through, spiders in the hallways. Now, some of that stuff you have to go to the Gorgon for. But like this, for example, is a prefab that I made that you have access to. That you can just drag it in when you want to light a user on fire and then delete it when you're done. It's a really simple trap, but really effective and good looking and can really scare the heck out of your players. So this is what we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about all these pieces, some of the things that are happening from a technology perspective, and then we're going to segue into actually building a scene. So with that, let's get started. So the way my content works is pretty easy. It's just $7 for everything. It's crazy, I know, and it's not always going to be that way, but the only thing that's different is if you want all of my archive of my Dungeondraft files, then that's $12. But otherwise, for most people, $7 a month is it. You get the entire modular system. You get all my premium maps. If you leave, you keep everything. You just don't get updates. So, again, this won't always be the case, but right now it's probably the best deal in the VTT world. To get it, you just go to my Patreon. So patreon.com/Baileywiki, which is linked in the video notes. The pinned post at the top of my Patreon has all the links that you need. Where you really want to get to is these two documents. The first is my FAQ and installation guide. It's got everything you need, including Patreon links, how to install my modules, info on other modules that you'll want to install, and all kinds of FAQ and tips for using my content. The second document is my modular system guide. It's got everything you need to know about my modular system specifically. What's in it, how to install it, how to use it. It's even got the entire changelog and release history for the entire system with video walkthroughs for everything. So if you're curious about this content, go find those. They're public documents. You can open them up. I'll link to them in the video notes as well, and you can check it out for yourself. Okay, so as far as setup goes, let's look at the modules you need installed. First of all, you need all of my modules, or at least the towns module. Everything else, everything castle related is inside of towns. You can have the other ones installed. All of my other modules work together, so you may want to use them. You also need multi-level token, which has been updated to the new Foundry 0.8, although I'm going to work out of 7.10 today, 7.9 actually, just for some of you who haven't made the move yet. We also want token attacher, which also I just found out updated to 0.8. We're building it. We built it in anticipation of that working, so it should work when you update. Be careful with your updates. Be prepared to roll back if you need to. So back up your worlds. Now, you also are going to need a couple other modules. Scene Packer is what stores all that meta information and makes it so that scenes can reference the proper actors in journal entries and link those journal entries properly and that sort of thing. So make sure you get Scene Packer if you want to have those stair journals work or have those pre-built things. And then Quick Encounters works with Scene Packer. Quick Encounters is what really creates those encounters that you can just double click that journal entry and all of a sudden have an encounter ready to go right out of the box. We're going to be doing a tutorial soon. I believe Zephyr's working on it now, that will show you how to manipulate Quick Encounters, work with Scene Packer, and work those two modules in general so you know how they work. And specifically so how you can, edit things in, things that maybe we've created, encounters we've created that maybe you want to make some changes to. And lastly, you need Moulinette. You don't need it, but I highly recommend it. At least the tile and the core service will help you. It's much easier to search for my castle tiles if you use Moulinette and use that tile tool. It is free. There is a cloud version that's amazing, and that gives you the ability to also search for prefabs. If you don't use Moulinette for prefabs, then you can use the free version, but prefabs, you'll still have to use the sidebar to actually search for prefabs that way. So again, I recommend you guys can look at my Moulinette video and my Moulinette cloud video if you want to see how those modules work as well. Keep in mind that prefabs will not work if you're not on the new token attacher and you're at 0.8 or higher for Foundry. Also keep in mind that we just went through a major update with Foundry and a lot of modules updated in a major way as well. You will have bugs. If you're planning on doing a game this weekend and you just updated today, I guarantee you're going to run into problems. So, give it a couple of weeks for things to stabilize, I recommend, but at least make sure that you're play testing or you're testing before you play your scenes to make sure that everything's working properly from a user perspective. And just one last thing, I do have music that has been provided for this, professionally done. This will also get better. You're just looking at some of the initial cuts. These will be improved. You will have combat music and other things added to it in a little bit later releases this month. So keep an eye on that as well. So this release is huge. It comes with 74 different rooms, dressed and empty. So everything you see here is all dressed versions. You have empty versions of everything you see in here. There's lighting and sound design with each one of these. A lot of these rooms, like the Great Hall, they come with pieces that are also come modular. So you can recreate this Great Hall in any dimension room that you want. You've got special lighting like these. I'm going to turn the lights on here for you guys. You've got special lighting like these chandeliers that come with roofs already enabled, and then they come broken on the floor. So you'll see us start to develop some traps and other things that you can have chandeliers fall on people. But tons of really creative stuff in here with a lot of unique elements that just make for a really immersive sort of gameplay. This scene that you're looking at is what I always do. It's like all the release items on a single scene. It's huge. You're not going to want to play this scene. Some of you, depending on what you've got in your computers, may not even be able to open it. But this really just kind of showcases the breadth of what's really come out in this release. You have some other interesting components. These are all token attacher prefabs, like the flamethrower. This one is a free flame. This one hits this invisible wall, so they work in different places. But you can get a lot of these from the Gorgon. He's got a ton of flames that you can use in your maps. He made all of these flames, for example, inside of here. These are all prefabs they have walls and lights and other things, and you can just drag them out from over here. This is a standing brazier. This is sconce, pillars, the flaming variety, and a regular variety. You've got a ton of things that snap into walls. So all of these walls are the same material, and these are identical. And so they snap in seamlessly, so you can put webs in any room against the walls. You can line hallways with them. you've got pillars, you've got skeletons hanging from the wall. These can all just literally drop right onto a particular, scene, and they can hide right underneath the wall or not. You can put them above the wall. You've got curtains. These are open. There's a closed version of these. Here's open and closed curtains here. Here's just sort of some fabric on the wall. It's a window. Lots of doors and portals. These are archways versus actual doors. This is a single door, steel door, and then this over here is an archway, like a beam that would go across the hallway, and you'll see examples of this in like the wine cellar. We've got some magical artifacts. We've got light pouring in from a window that Zephyr made. This can go as an overhead tile and cast light over players that walk into it. It's really cool. Abominable Rob made all of these different statues that can tuck into alcoves, which I'll show you in a second. Other things that can tuck in, and then overhead stuff like this dragon and these gargoyles are meant to go overhead in a room looking over things. You've even got some bone tables and things like that, chairs. You've got some other stuff from Abominable Rob, just great things that you can drop in from a design perspective. And then you've got some creativity that comes with these, like this, for example, this bed here, that's actually an overhead tile, and it's meant to not disappear, but it is still actually designed transparently. So you can have a player in bed or a NPC in bed, and you can't really see them, slightly obscured, and if the lights were out, they'd be even darker. And I just find that interesting. Like, you walk in, you're exploring the room, and nobody realizes that there's, somebody in the bed watching them. So we try to do creative things like that as well. And you'll see other rooms like the forge, for example, that has these special overhead tiles. This one will hide if you walk under it, but you could put a iron golem in there being worked on, and then you might have a smithy in here building something. But lots of creativity and interesting points that come with each one of these rooms. This is a balcony that goes over this chapel here, but this chapel also comes in a clean version where you can decorate it in other ways. And you've got some other prefabs and stuff like this keg and this pile of bones that all come with your set. If you're wondering where everything is, it's all under castle. You've got all your stairs. These are all prefabs. You can drop them in with walls and everything else. These are all of your rooms, both empty and dressed. And then all of your decor items, again, that are prefabs. You've got more decor items than this, all within Moulinette. So within Moulinette, in your free version, under tiles, you have your towns pack tiles. And you'll find everything for towns in here. If you do a search for castle, you'll filter down to all of the castle things that are going to be relevant to you. And I'm going to show you how to build a scene with all of these components here in a second. If you are using the Moulinette Cloud version, you can actually browse the prefabs through the prefab tab. It's not available, it's not possible to do with the local free version, but in the cloud version, I'm able to send everything to Moulinette and they can parse through it and figure out what is a prefab and make it available here. You can just drag it into your scene when you're ready to use it. And of course, you can use the tile version with the free or the paid version as well. And of course, if you have Forgotten Adventures installed, you can, or Tom Kartos, you can use all their assets to dress up normally a plain room or plain building in any way that you want to. I did mention, I think, that there's also music. There's a new music playlist. I've got it sitting somewhere else here. So there's a Baileywiki Town playlist, and if you import this castle playlist, it will drop that into here, and you can now listen and put on loop some of the new sounds that came with. These are all being redone and being expanded. There will be battle music and other things coming up with the next release. Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys how to build your own scene, and by learning how to build it, you'll know how to manipulate existing scenes. So we're going to start with this empty scene, and we're going to go open up its config, and we're going to pick a background for it. In this case, we'll pick a snowy background. And when we hit Save Changes, it will install that background. But what I want to do is I want to make the dimensions different. So I'm going to make it 5900 by 5900. This is how big you want it if you want to use the footprint that we've given you for your first kind of castle footprints, the one that you saw in the demo. Now I've got the right scene at the right dimensions. What I'm going to do is open up Moulinette. And if it's your first time opening this after installing the latest version, you do want to hit index images. That will index all of the new images in the module and put them into Moulinette for you. I'm going to use the local installation. If you're using Moulinette Cloud, it should already be indexed and you can just go straight to tiles or to prefabs. In fact, prefabs only work inside of Moulinette Cloud if you want to use them with Moulinette. Otherwise, you have to use the normal browsing system for prefabs that you're used to with my modules. But we'll just go over the free version of Moulinette for today, and I'm going to show you guys how to build these scenes. So I'll go to my town pack. I'm going to type in castle, and I'm going to get all of these thumbnails of all of the assets that come with the castle system. I'm going to grab this one right here. And I'm going to set my DPI only for this one type of tile, this footprint tile. It's so huge. If we set it at 150, it would just be a waste of resources and space and performance problems. So this one we're going to leave at 100 DPI, and we're going to make sure that it's exactly on the grid, so it doesn't mess up all of our other alignment of our rooms. And that's it. Everything else we're going to switch to 150. Now I'm going to build 2 rooms and connect them. I'm going to use 2 different methods. First one, I'm just going to use tiles. So let's say I want an entrance to my castle. Let's say this room is going to be our entrance. I'm going to grab the wall to sit on top of it. And I'm going to right click that wall and I'm going to turn it into a roof that doesn't disappear. I'm using the old roofs module with 7.10. You guys will get a better version of this here shortly when we support 0.8. And then I'm going to need a door. So if I look up castle door, I get some door options. I like this big steel door. I'm going to drop it onto my scene. I'm going to also make it a roof tile that doesn't hide. I'm going to put the shadow facing out because I already have shadows that face in. So this will be just a shadow that faces out. Not that you need it here, but you need it for hallways and stuff. And then I'm going to put this archway in. And I'm going to duplicate it over here. So I've got archways on both sides, and then I want this big wooden door sitting on the north entrance. Okay. Now my walls won't disappear when my players walk underneath them. The next thing I want to do is put some pillars in here, and I'll show you the easy way to do it. I could just wall those off, or instead I could just look up pillar, find my Gothic pillar, not the one that lights on fire. We'll just use the regular one for now. You can hold down Shift to put it in the right spot. I use the DF Architect module to make it easier and more precise to drop a pillar in half squares. That's what I'm doing here. Now if I turn on my walls, I see that I've got terrain walls around all of my pillars. Of course, I still need to wall the rest of my scene. If I use prefabs, this step is largely done for me. But it's not terribly difficult to wall a room like this. And of course, my archways don't have doors in them. And then I'll want to put some light in here. So why don't I look up a chandelier. And let's use this one. Right in the middle of the room. I'm going to move this out of the way, this control token, using quick edit mode. And now I've got a nice little room. So let's test it with a player. Okay, I can walk under my chandelier and it disappears. It's giving off light. I've got line of sight around through all my doors and my pillars. So I've got a nice little room going on here. So now I'm going to show you the second method. Now we're going to use a prefab. So let's look up the Great Hall. Here's one. And I'm going to give myself some room for a hallway there. All right, now my Great Hall's in. I could leave it as a prefab, and that leaves everything locked. But instead, I think I'm good where it's at. So I'm going to unattach everything. Using token attacher. Now I've got all of my pieces still in here, but it's all unattached, and I can move it around and manipulate it freely. Okay, I do want to put a door in here. Let's put a nice sort of reinforced brass door. And I think for this exit out of the room, I'll put another door, but I'll just make a single door. These doors are thick in order to cover the wall, just to help with modularity versus having to make other decisions. And then I'm going to just change my walls around a little bit. Oops, that's a door. And it looks like I'm missing a wall here. I'll have to fix that. And a patch. There. And finally, let's say that I want to have maybe something in those alcoves. So I'll search for castle and statue. And I find some robbed statues here. So let's see how these look. You hold down shift to place it exactly where you want it. It's pretty good. That's the wall height thing that gets in the way. Hopefully that gets fixed at some point. All right, now I've got my prefab building in there, all done. Lights, sound, everything else is built into it. I'm going to show you how to do the hallways. So if I do castle hall, I'll get some of these assets down here. I'm not going to walk you through everything. Some of this is supporting the next release. But for this one, let's go ahead and pull out a red carpet. And this one. And then we want to give it some walls. So I'd like some artwork. Do that. And maybe for this particular hallway, maybe there's a pillar. And then maybe there's not anything over there. Let's add let's make this hallway go another direction. And what we need to make this look right is one of these guys. It's just an archway. You could put any old door here. And then it makes it nice and flush with everything else. I can turn the rest of these into roofs as well. Again, I'm using the old roofs, but the new roofs will work a very similar way. You don't have to do this. You are going to have walls here that are going to restrict movement. But if you want to be able to have, players crouch within the hallways, maybe that's a tactical thing you want, you can do it there. We could have put walls into the hallways just like prefabs, but we found building it is that it really got in the way. You end up spending more time fixing walls and how they connect than just coming in here and just walling it off simply. Walling hallways is one of the easiest things that you'll do. And we didn't want to have too many wall segments, keep all the wall segments down. So there, we're done. We finished that. And maybe I want some lighting in here. So I'll pull a candle stand in. And this is just a token. So I'll rotate this. I'll hold down shift because I want to set it right there in front of that artwork. Maybe that's the only light that I've got in that room. Let's grab our player and go test our new room. Here's our new hallway, works great. So I'm walking by this hallway, I can see down it, it's lit. Open up this room. Now I can hear my ambient noises. Maybe I fill this room with some laughter and some NPCs drinking and carrying on and having a good time. And then I've got an exit out of here. Maybe I decide that behind this statue is a secret entrance. See if I made that big enough for a token to get through. There you go. And now I'm off to some other part of the castle. I look up castle stair. I get all these stair pieces. And you can hover over them and see, like, this one goes up and down. Some of these are base only. So that's the landing. So if I drag that out here, I can situate it where I want. So if that was the secret entrance, maybe it comes to here. And I can drag this guy on top. Make it a roof. And let's see, let's make this a double 3x2. I'm going to be with 0.8, there's going to be some new tools to be able to move tiles above and below other tiles. In this case, I'm going to have to do it a difficult way. Notice I moved that tile below this main one here. And if you want, you can just put these in here like this. And again, if you're OCD and you really want to fix it, you can just grab one of these pieces. That's this pillar. Just duplicate it. Oops, I didn't connect this one up far enough. There we go. I hold down my shift here, and that helps me just put it where I want. And depending on how you like to do these also come in prefabs, by the way, so you don't have to go through everything that I'm going through, but just to show you your options. There. And now my player can move in here. I look up torch. I have this animated wall torch by the Gorgon. And I can just hold down shift and I can put my torch wherever I want it. It gives off light and it looks great. And to my players, they won't see the control token, but they'll be able to walk in here and see that torch lit. So hopefully that helps you guys understand how to use the system. I'm really looking forward to what creations you guys make, custom rooms that you make. I hope that you recycle them back into the community so that everyone can continue to build on this system and do some really, really fun things together. So the last thing I'll show you is if we look up like gargoyle. We have these gargoyle options. We also have dragons, and there will be other things in the future. We turn that into a ceiling tile or an overhead tile that doesn't disappear. We can now put that gargoyle in a room. I can hold down shift, put him exactly where I want, copy him, and paste him elsewhere. And this is a really cool effect when players are walking in and they notice these things sort of looming over them. It creates a really, really nice effect. Have dragon as well. Maybe I want a dragon. Maybe I want a dragon looking over the throne. And maybe I want this a little bit bigger than it is. So I could make it 600 by 600. Make it a ceiling tile or overhead. Something like that. My players can even go underneath it, be it slightly obscured by it, which I think is great. So hopefully that helps you guys understand how to use the system itself. Let me know in the comments if you have questions or if you have problems finding or think you have a better way of searching for the content within this release. But hopefully you guys have fun making your castle maps.